have received a message that someone important has been imprisoned and someone that you value so much in life and they are behind bars, what thoughts come to your mind? This is the show, Painful Goodbyes. Today, to help us in this show is Sister No. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Welcome to the show. People would love to know who No is.
Okay. My co-workers will know me as Noxie and most of my friends. I am a wife to John Mupa. I am a mother to Zona Zinhle and Zipe Zinhle. And I am a church worker. I have been working for the church for almost 16 years now. And I am a church member as well. And I have in my heart a passion for children.
Okay, beautiful. I just noticed that you used Z on the first child, Z on the second child. What's the secret about the Z's there?
Okay, maybe a funny story. There's one time there was a seminar that was being run, and one of the speakers encouraged all of us to pray for our children. At that time, I had no boyfriend. I had no thoughts of getting married. And, but my mom looked at me and she was like, okay, pray for them. And I was like, now how will I pray for them? Like, okay, let me pray for them by name. So in my heart, I was hoping for 6 children. All right. And the Lord blessed us so far with 2. And at that time, during that seminar, I had named all 6 of them. Zinhle, Zona, Izibusiso Zethu, Zinzile, Zandile, Zanele.
Wow. So there is this love for the children. Where is it coming from? What brought it into existence? Or what is it that motivates it?
Okay, from my childhood, I loved playing with the younger children. And then when I was in high school, at our church by the school at Anderson, there was a vibrant children's ministries department. So I would go and assist with the children's lessons, and I learned a lot from the women there. And I found that I related well with the children. So throughout, from then on, throughout my life, I have been working with children at church level. And the Lord has blessed me, if not with the 6 that I had prayed for. At the moment, every Sabbath, I have 11 children. Okay. That I take in from, including my own, from various homes. And they are my children at church. And it has been a joy and a blessing to have all of them in my life. So they are the Zona Zinhle, Izibusiso, Zenkos. Okay. Now, let's talk about the relationship that you have with your parents. Maybe you want to talk about mom and then talk about dad. Okay. I'm a firstborn child of 2. I have a younger brother. And growing up, I was the deputy parent. I was the assistant at home for everything. Yeah. My mother still trusts me, I hope, with most of the things that she needs done. We have been very good friends. We have fought, as mothers and daughters do, but we've been very good friends. We have helped each other through a lot of emotional ups and downs. My dad has been the darling man in my life. He has been the first parent, I think. What will John say when you're talking now? Right, that's okay. He understands that the father is the man that you love all your life. That's interesting. John, I love for the rest of my life. Yeah. He has been a spiritual mentor. I have learned a lot from him spiritually. He would give us time growing up to ask any question. I remember Friday evenings were our time after worship was done, since we would not be turning on the TV again. we would have time to sit and ask him anything. I remember we went through almost all the fundamental beliefs. We wanted to understand about the Trinity. We wanted to really understand what everything was about. And we were determined, my brother and I were determined, that we would only get baptized once we fully understood what we were getting into. And he was patient with us to explain over and over and over again, to try this example, try that one, try to share where his faith was based on, and it grew us spiritually, and that time to us was very precious.
Beautiful. We'll take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll continue with this lovely story. Welcome back to the second segment of the show, Painful Goodbyes. I'm with Sister No. They call her Nox at work. And we were discussing before the break, you were just talking about the closeness that you had with your dad. And you jokingly said, what will John say about that? And it seems to me that the relationship is deep. And maybe take us through other memorable events that you had with your dad that really cemented this relationship.
Okay. Yeah. When I was born, my father was already in the ministry. He was serving at Western Field at that time. And we traveled a lot with him for youth camps, for camp meetings. We would all tag along as a family. And then I remember there's one holiday, my mother was occupied, my brother was also occupied, and then he had to do rounds of going around most of the camp meetings here in Zimbabwe. So I tagged along, and we went to Maswingo. We went to the Maswingo camp meeting, the Lower Guelo camp meeting, and then the Sigwe camp meeting. And as we were traveling, we had a lot of time to talk on many topics. I really got to know him better, and I really got to understand how deeply he valued ministry.
And there's this time when you heard a message that was disturbing, and you didn't know what to do about your dad. What actually has brought us to this show? Maybe we need to talk about that time.
Okay. Maybe to start off on the lighter note, end of 2010, my mom came home one evening and she called us all together to the sitting room and she said, we've been asked to go to Angola. So we all looked at her and then we were asking, where is Angola?
Okay.
So we got out the maps and we were looking like, oh, it's in Africa. Okay. Then we wanted to find out what is it like there. And we were trying to read as much as we could. Oh, they speak Portuguese. Okay. So we got hold of Rosetta Stone and we were all now practicing Portuguese. And would try to fala at home just to get them ready to go. So end of 2010, my dad went to Angola. In beginning of 2011, my mother followed. And the following year, I made a trip there to go and see where they were. to understand better where they were working and the environment that they were in. And it was very enlightening. When I got there, I found that they had made friends. They were speaking Portuguese. They had acclimatized, and they were in full mission mode. And that was a comfort to us that, no, it's okay where they are on mission. And I was back here at home. My brother was out of the country at that time. And I was comforted knowing that they are on mission. I am here, and our Heavenly Father is watching over all of us. And whatever challenges that I met while I was here, I had the support of family members, close friends of theirs that have also become my close friends. And they were a comfort to me during that time, and they assisted. And then in 2017, there was a strange occurrence that happened. You can read more about it in this book, The Intervention. There was sort of a case of kidnapping that had occurred. One pastor claimed that he had been kidnapped, and it was, at the time, my father and Pastor Hachalinga had been charged with defamation of character, which in almost every country carries a fine. You pay a fine because you have defamed somebody's character. So we found that the court case seemed to be dragging on and on. And my parents, when they would relate to me, oh, we're going to court, we're coming from court, they were taking it lightly, so to speak, that no, it's just a strange case. There is no case. This thing will not go far, and nothing will happen. And then in December 2017, 26 December 2017, they were actually arrested. And then they were taken to prison. And it was a shock. We were not expecting that would happen. It was a shock. We had no idea what an Angolan prison looked like. We had no idea what would happen to them there. We were no longer sure how long they would be in there. Because at the time of their sentencing, they'd been sentenced to 3 years, upwards of 3 years. And now we're wondering that, is this the beginning of 3 years? And we were all in shock. I am thankful that at that time, we're with my uncle and aunt. We had gone out and were on holiday with them. But they were there for all of us to sit together. In our culture, when something bad happens, you want the elders with you. And it was good to have the elders there with us. And there was also a friend visiting from Angola. And we're now asking her, what is the prison like? What's going to happen next? And so she went back with a lot of our questions. And some of the things that they needed there, we managed to give her to carry back to Angola. And we are thankful that at that time going to Angola required a visa. And now applying for the visa would take some time. The family pulled together some funds, and one of my uncles and my brother managed to go, and they went to Angola. And it's beautiful. What they recount in what's written in the book shows a beautiful experience that no matter where you are, just having family close by means a lot. They went there to the prison to Komaka, and they had a worship service. I find it so... it gives me so much hope that even in that difficult situation, they found time to praise. In our family culture, growing up, prayer and praise was a big part of who we were, especially when we got together for whatever event, whether we were happy or we were sad. We would pray, we would sing. So when they got there to Komaka, they sang, and they sang one of our, what we feel is a family national anthem, Jesus Loves Me, This I Know, in Zulu. And it was a comfort to my dad. I was worried about him, so when they went, I wrote a letter, and I figured a handwritten letter says a lot, more than anything else. So I wrote a letter, and I gave them to give to him, and they managed to smuggle it into the prison. And then he replied, he wrote me back a letter. And in his letter, he began with the words, "Dear daughter, I am writing to you in my cell and in these chains." So when I read that first line, I had been so worried about his mental health, and I was worried about his spiritual health, how he was holding up. But when I read those first lines, I was like, if he's quoting Paul, he's okay. He's fine. His spirit is fine. His mind is fine. That was a worry to me more than anything else, that he would go with God wherever he was going. And from the book, after he came out, they recounted how they were giving Bible lessons there in prison. They baptized when they were there in the prison. And even after prison, we had another visit. And during that time, he would be calling some of his ex-prison mates who were still in prison. They were still in touch. So for me, it was a comfort knowing that the Lord went with him into prison and also kept us while he was there. And the support that we got from friends, from relatives was so big. People who will know me will know that I am very shy to ask for a lot of things, and even when I need them. And during that time, there's a grandmother of ours who just called and said, "I'm coming to pick you up. Let's go." And she came and she's like, "Let's go to the shop." And we got into the shop, and then she's like, "Pick anything you need." I was in shock. We needed the food. And I was not sure where it was going to come from. But now we're being given a blank check to pick anything we wanted. And it was such an answer to prayer. I was in shock. I couldn't move. And she just pushed the trolley around, picking everything. "You eat this? You eat this?" And she was just piling things into the trolley, and she paid for them. And we went home, and we had food enough to last us for the time we needed. God came through for each of us in so many ways, and I am thankful that to all the people that stepped in various ways to assist us. It was such a blessing.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about maybe if you could share, before we wrap up this session, if you could share the emotions, the most painful emotions that you had when you received the news.
We were in shock. It was just shock and disbelief. And the feelings of every day after that, I would go to sleep with a prayer so disappointed that they had not been released. And I would wake up in the morning crying that, "Lord, it's another day. Give me something to hold on to for today, something to get us through the day." And God was faithful. Every morning I would get a song would come to mind, or a verse would come to mind that would help me through each of those difficult days.
Thank you very much for sharing this bit of the story. We'll just take a short break, and soon after this, we will then resume. Welcome back to the show, Painful Goodbyes. I'm with Nox. And now in the book, your dad speaks about the fact that from court, actually, you didn't have time to say goodbye. Maybe that would have been a lot more therapeutic. I'm wondering how you managed to cope with that situation of this painful goodbye.
It was so hard. It was hard to know that someone you could just pick up the phone and talk to any second is no longer available to you. And not knowing how long he would be in prison was the more terrifying part. I think it's something that is common for all families of those who are in prison, that not knowing how much longer that person will be in prison is very difficult to work with. It's difficult to plan your life. It's difficult to just move on to do other things because you are stuck at the prison with them.
So how did you cope with that?
We prayed a lot. We prayed a lot, and we were fortunate that we're in touch with someone else besides my mom in Angola who was updating us on, now we're trying this, we've talked to the lawyer, now we're doing this. And it was really great to have those updates because we were totally in the dark as to how their legal system operates, we're in the dark to how the prison system also operated. So it was a comfort to us knowing that there were people there on the ground who were willing to be going to the prison to be with my mom and to be giving us those updates as well.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the 62 days?
Every day was painful. Every day was so painful because there would be those thoughts that you want to pick up the phone and talk to someone and share something, and you can't. Okay. Having that access to him denied was very painful. And for my mom, it was also like we no longer had access to my mom as well because we needed her to be supportive of my dad during that time. So we couldn't burden her with our problems here at home as well. And we're trying during that time to shield her as much as possible from knowing all the things that were happening here at home. And we're also trying to find words to give her comfort and strength to continue. She was an employee and she was expected to continue going to work. We had no idea of knowing how long this would stretch, so she needed to be going to work. If it was going to be 3 years, she could not spend the 3 years at home. So I would be there throughout the day, a phone call away. If she needed me, she would call me. Sometimes I would feel in my spirit that she could be struggling. I would call her. And we supported each other in that way. And the prayers of many supported us as well.
So how can we help those who are in this kind of a situation?
I pray not many find themselves in this situation. When we were reflecting on it one day, we were asking each other with my mom, like, we keep asking, why us? Why did this happen to us? And another thought came that said, why not us? What do we have within our resources that makes us able to bear with this better than others? And we found that our faith, our closeness as a family helped us to bear through those difficult days. And our faith in God really strengthened us in our difficult journey. And having listening ears, those who listened to us, there were those who doubted to think that maybe he did do something to find himself in prison. But we had faith that where God had led him, he would keep him and bring him safely through it. And we were constantly thankful for the family members who were praying for us, praying with us. and for the colleagues and who were assisting us in so many ways. And for the listening ears from our friends, even from those who we met, sometimes pain can just come out at some of the most unfortunate times. But there were people who were there to be patient with us and to bear with us and to supply for those needs that we needed at that time. For others going through this situation, I'd say have hope in the person that you know. Whether they're in prison or they're at home, they are your person, and you must have hope in them as the person. We may never know the full story of situations, but whether innocent or guilty, people need to know that someone has hope and faith in them for the person that they are. And that someone is thinking of them and thinking maybe this person would appreciate a bit of food or an extra jersey if it's cold, or a book, or just anything that we can share with those who find themselves in these situations.
Thank you very much for sharing your story, and thank you for the lovely insights that you gave. For me, Nox, and the crew behind the scenes, it's a wrap.
For more about Pastor Hachalinga and Pastor Sibanda's stories, you can get hold of this book. It's available on Amazon or at your local ABC, and it tells more than what we could have covered during these very few minutes that we had.